How did the people of 5,000 years ago make a wedding ring? Before jewelers, before refined metalworking, before mass production, what did the very first wedding ring actually look like? A small rock tied to a length of cord? A loop of leather wrapped around the finger? A circle of twisted vine or woven grass or whatever fiber the local plants happened to provide? The answer, as it turns out, is closer to the last of those than to anything we'd recognize today. Nowadays, the wedding ring is a small velvet box, a diamond under soft white light, a price tag of 3 months' salary. The global engagement ring industry is worth approximately $80 billion a year. In the United States, roughly 75% of brides receive a diamond. The custom is treated as ancient, universal, and self-evident. It is none of those things. The diamond engagement ring, as a tradition, was invented in 1947 by a single copywriter at an advertising agency in Philadelphia, working for a South African diamond cartel that had just realized it had a marketing problem. The story begins 5,000 years earlier in Egypt, 3000 BC reads, and the vein of love. For most of human history, a ring was a small braided loop of plant material worn on a finger. The earliest known wedding rings come from ancient Egypt, around 3000 BC. They were made of woven reeds, rushes, or papyrus, twisted into a circle and slipped onto the fourth finger of the left hand. They wore out quickly, they were replaced regularly, they were not expensive, they were not unusual. The Egyptians believed that a single vein ran from the fourth finger of the left hand directly to the heart. They called it the vena amoris, the vein of love. 2,000 years later, the Greeks adopted the belief. The Romans, who were skeptical about most Greek ideas, kept this one. There is no vein of love. The anatomy is wrong. But the belief survived 5,000 years, and it is the reason the wedding ring is worn on the fourth finger of the left hand today, across most of the Western world. The circle was a symbol of eternity, of unbroken continuity, of no beginning and no end. The hole through the center was a doorway. The ring was both an oath and a passage. The reeds, of course, withered within weeks. For most of human history, a ring was a small braided loop of plant material worn on a finger. 100 AD, the Roman contract. The Romans turned the wedding ring into a contract. By the 1st century, a Roman bride received 2 rings. One was iron, plain, undecorated, worn at home. The other was gold, ornate, worn in public to display the husband's wealth and the woman's new social rank. The gold ring stayed in the household vault when she went out to the market. The Roman ring was called the annulus pronibus, the betrothal ring. It was given at engagement, not at the wedding itself, and it functioned as a legal contract. By accepting it, the woman entered the financial and household authority of the man's family. The ring was, in effect, a receipt. This is the part of the tradition that survived. The engagement ring as a legal financial token of intention, given at one moment and worn until a separate ceremony, comes directly from Roman betrothal practice. It survived the fall of the empire. It survived the rise of Christianity. It survived the Reformation, the Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution. The vein of love romance was incorporated. The contract was the foundation. Gold Roman rings were occasionally engraved with the husband's image, the family name, or, on rare occasion, the phrase pignus amoris, the pledge of love. Most were not engraved, most were practical metal. The Romans had the wedding ring. They mostly used it as a deed. 860 AD, the Pope's blessing. In 860, Pope Nicholas I made the wedding ring a sacrament. Before this, Christian marriage in Europe was a household matter, conducted between families with very little church involvement. The ring was a Roman custom that had carried over into Christian practice, but the church had not formally claimed it. Pope Nicholas changed that. He declared that the ring would be blessed by a priest at the wedding ceremony. He declared that it would be made of valuable metal, gold for those who could afford it, silver or iron for those who could not. He declared that it would be a public symbol of the bond. The blessing made the ring religious. The expense made it durable. For the next 1,000 years, the wedding ring would be a Christian sacrament, blessed by the church, exchanged at the altar. treated as a permanent obligation. Catholic, Orthodox, and later Protestant traditions all kept the ring, with minor variations. Some traditions placed it on the right hand, some on the left. All of them placed it on the fourth finger. Medieval Europe added new forms. The Gimel ring was a pair of interlocking bands, one worn by each partner during the engagement, joined into a single ring at the wedding. Posy rings were engraved on the inside with short verses or vows. A few rings included a small key, symbolic of the husband's authority over the household. The wedding ring became more elaborate. The function did not change. It was still a contract, signed in metal and witnessed by God. 1477. The Royal Diamond. In 1477, Archduke Maximilian of Austria gave Mary of Burgundy a diamond ring at their betrothal. It was the first known diamond engagement ring in European history. The setting was gold. The stones were small, uncut, and arranged in the shape of the letter M. Maximilian's advisors had recommended the diamond specifically because it was rare and expensive, a status display intended to impress the Burgundian court. The marriage was, by political standards of the era, important. Burgundy was wealthy. Austria was ambitious. The diamond ring was a flourish. Other European royalty took notice. By the 16th century, a handful of aristocrats had imitated Maximilian's gesture. By the 17th century, a few more. By the 18th century, the diamond engagement ring was a recognizable custom among the very wealthy. For everyone else, the wedding ring stayed gold or silver or iron. Diamonds were too scarce. Until the 18th century, the entire world's supply of diamonds came from a small region of India, and most of them went into religious art and royal jewelry. The few that reached Europe were astronomically expensive. They did not enter ordinary households. The diamond engagement ring was, in 1477, a one-off royal flourish. It would remain that for 400 years. Then someone found diamonds in South Africa. 1888. The monopoly. In 1871, a 17-year-old British farmer's son named Cecil Rhodes arrived at the Kimberley diamond fields in South Africa. A few years earlier, vast quantities of diamonds had been discovered in the soil there. Diamonds, until that moment astronomically scarce, were suddenly being pulled from the ground by the bucketful. The price collapsed. By the 1880s, the South African mines were producing more diamonds in a year than India had produced in 3 centuries. The diamond was briefly an ordinary stone. Rhodes recognized the problem. If diamonds were common, they would be cheap. If they were cheap, no one would buy them as a luxury good. The entire diamond industry in 1888 was about to disappear into its own oversupply. His solution was to buy every diamond mine in South Africa. By 1888, he had succeeded. The company he founded was called De Beers Consolidated Mines. It controlled approximately 90% of the world's diamond supply, and it artificially restricted output to keep the price high. The strategy worked for 50 years. Stones piled up in De Beers warehouses, released slowly. The price stayed up. The industry survived. By the 1930s, however, demand had collapsed. The Great Depression had ended European luxury spending. The American market was thin. Diamond engagement rings, despite 4 centuries of royal precedent, were owned by fewer than 10% of American brides. De Beers had a warehouse full of stones and almost no buyers. 1947. A diamond is forever. In 1947, an advertising copywriter named Frances Garrity wrote a 4-word slogan for De Beers. She worked for the air agency in Philadelphia. She was, by her own account, exhausted, working late and out of ideas. The slogan she produced was, "A diamond is forever." She told her colleagues that she did not particularly like it. The campaign that followed was one of the most successful in advertising history. It was built on 3 connected claims. First, that a diamond was the only appropriate token of engagement. Second, that the ring should cost approximately 1 month of the man's salary. Later revised upward to 2 months, then in some markets to 3. Third, that a diamond should never be resold because it was an heirloom. a claim that, conveniently, prevented a secondary market that would have undercut De Beers' prices. The campaign also rewrote history. Magazine articles sponsored by De Beers presented the diamond engagement ring as ancient, universal, and traditional. Hollywood films, supplied with diamonds by De Beers, staged engagement scenes around them. Etiquette guides advised by De Beers listed the diamond engagement ring as standard practice. It worked. By the 1980s, around 80% of American brides received diamond engagement rings. The custom spread to Japan, where it had previously not existed at all. The diamond engagement ring was now an ancient and universal tradition in countries where it had been entirely unknown a generation earlier. Frances Gerety died in 1999. She had never married. She had never worn a diamond ring. A copywriter in Philadelphia invented an ancient tradition. Thank you for watching. Every object has an origin. Click here for the next one.